At some point, roughly 48,000 years ago, a Neanderthal stood close enough to a living cave lion to drive a wooden spear into its body. Not throw it from the safety of another continent. Drive it in. The weapon entered through the lion's abdomen, passed between the organs, and struck the inside of a rib. The injury left a puncture in the bone, a tiny mark preserving one extremely bad day for the lion and one extremely ambitious decision by the Neanderthal. This is the earliest direct evidence we currently have of a human relative hunting a lion, but it creates a more uncomfortable question. What happened after the lion died? Did ancient humans stand over the most dangerous predator in their landscape, remove its skin, cut off its meat, crack its bones, and eat it? The short answer is yes, at least sometimes. The longer answer involves murder investigations conducted hundreds of thousands of years late because a butchered lion skeleton does not explain whether the animal was hunted, scavenged, eaten, skinned, worshipped, or processed for every useful part at once. And the evidence becomes stranger the closer we look. First, we need to meet the animal. The cave lion was not simply a modern African lion that became lost in a cave. It was a distinct lion population that ranged across huge parts of Ice Age Eurasia and, through closely related forms, across northern North America. It lived on open steppe, in valleys, and around the same large herbivores humans hunted. The name comes partly from its bones being found in caves, not because it spent its life indoors waiting beside the stalagmites like an unusually aggressive landlord. Cave lions were enormous. Many were larger than modern lions, although their size varied across time and place. They hunted animals such as reindeer, horses, bison, and young mammoths. These were also important human prey. Humans and lions therefore occupied overlapping worlds. They wanted the same landscapes. They followed many of the same herds. They sometimes used the same caves, and they were both intelligent, social predators capable of making the other one's afternoon considerably worse. For most of the Pleistocene, the normal direction of danger was obvious. Lions could kill humans. A lone person, a child, an injured adult, or anyone caught in darkness could become prey. Even a well-armed group had reason to avoid close contact with a cat powerful enough to drag down animals heavier than itself. Hunting one deliberately seems almost irrational. Herbivores provided more predictable returns. A deer does not possess claws, fangs, night vision, and a professional understanding of where necks are located. A bison is extremely dangerous, but it does not stalk the people hunting it. A lion does. Yet ancient humans did not always choose the safest available resource. The archaeological record shows people pursuing mammoths, rhinoceroses, bears, and other animals capable of converting a hunting plan into a funeral. The key was cooperation. No serious reconstruction requires a lone Neanderthal challenging a healthy lion to honorable combat. Honor is useful mainly to storytellers and dead hunters. A group could surround an animal, attack from several directions, use thrusting or thrown spears, exploit terrain, target a lion trapped in a confined place, or approach one already injured, old, isolated, or distracted. The goal was not fairness. The goal was to make the lion dead while keeping the humans in the opposite condition. Wooden weapons can sound primitive only because the wood usually disappears. Properly made spears are serious hunting tools. Their points can be hardened and sharpened, their shafts balanced, and their force concentrated into a narrow area. Complete wooden hunting weapons survive from sites hundreds of thousands of years old, proving that early humans manufactured them with planning and precision. Against a lion, however, the weapon was only part of the system. Distance mattered. Position mattered. The animal's attention had to be divided. One hunter facing the lion's head could be protected by others attacking from the side. Spears could create a barrier of points, much as groups using long weapons have defended themselves from dangerous animals in later history. Terrain offered another advantage. A narrow passage limited the lion's ability to circle. Deep snow could slow it. A steep bank, fallen, tree, rock wall, pit, or cave entrance could restrict escape. Humans did not need to outrun the lion. They needed to predict where it would move. The most likely target was not always a healthy adult in open country. A wounded lion might be tracked after conflict with prey. An old animal could be weakened. A young individual might be separated. A lion feeding on a carcass could be distracted, though approaching one at dinner would test the theory that it is rude to interrupt someone while eating. Fire and noise may have helped drive or intimidate a lion, but flames were not a magical shield. Large predators can retreat from unfamiliar fire, yet a cornered or habituated animal may attack. The final distance still had to be crossed with a weapon. That last step explains why direct evidence is so rare. A successful hunt might leave cuts on the carcass, but no mark proving how it died. Spears usually entered soft tissue, which decomposed. A thrust through the abdomen, throat, or between ribs could be lethal without touching bone. Archaeologists may have identified the remains of hunted lions while lacking the one injury required to distinguish hunting from scavenging. The Siegsdorf rib survived because the spear happened to strike bone, and because researchers eventually recognized what the mark meant. And that brings us back to the skeleton from Siegsdorf in Germany. The cave lion was discovered decades before researchers recognized the full importance of its injuries. It was a middle-aged individual whose remains date to around 48,000 years ago. Several bones carried cut marks showing that Neanderthals butchered the carcass. But cut marks alone cannot prove hunting. People could butcher an animal they found already dead. The crucial clue was the rib. Researchers examined a partial puncture and drag marks on the inside surface of the bone. Experiments in comparison with weapon injuries indicated that a wooden spear had likely entered from below and struck the rib from inside the chest. The angle suggests the lion may have been lying on its side when stabbed. That detail changes the scene. Perhaps the animal had already been wounded and was being finished. Perhaps it was cornered or immobilized. The spear entered a vulnerable area that offered access to vital organs while avoiding the heavier bones above. This was not someone randomly poking a dead carcass. The injury occurred while soft tissue still surrounded the bone, and it fits a lethal hunting action. The Neanderthals then processed the body. Did they eat it? Possibly, but the Siegsdorf case is strongest as evidence of hunting and butchery. Cut marks can come from removing flesh, but they can also appear during dismemberment or skinning. To establish consumption, archaeologists look for a sequence of clues: cuts where muscles attach, marks from separating joints, impact damage from cracking bones, burning, and patterns showing access to meat and marrow. For a much older case, those clues become remarkably persuasive. More than 300,000 years ago, at Grandolina in northern Spain, ancient humans processed the carcass of a large fossil lion. The remains came from a cave layer filled with stone tools and butchered animal bones. Cut marks appeared on the lion's skeleton in locations associated with skinning, removing limbs, stripping flesh, and disarticulating the carcass. The humans also broke bones to reach marrow. This was not a single ceremonial cut or a claw removed as a trophy. It was an organized processing sequence similar to what humans performed on prey animals. They removed the hide. They removed meat. They opened bones for fat. That is about as close as archaeology gets to finding the menu. Whether those humans killed the lion remains harder to establish. The animal could have been hunted, encountered while weakened, or found dead and claimed before other scavengers arrived. The original researchers considered capture plausible, but no weapon injury survived to close the case. This distinction matters because ancient humans were excellent opportunists. Finding a fresh lion carcass would present both danger and value. First, the people had to determine why it was dead. Disease, injury, another lion, a collapsing cave. Was the rest of its group nearby? Had hyenas already detected it? The safest lion is a dead lion. The second safest lion is also dead, but surrounded by several humans holding spears. And checking repeatedly. Scavenging did not make the achievement trivial. A large carcass attracted other carnivores. Claiming it could require speed, numbers, weapons, and the confidence to defend it. By the way, if you want to go even deeper into the secret lives of ancient humans, I just launched a full course called The Secret Lives of Ancient Humans. 10 modules, 3+ hours of content covering everything we never talk about on YouTube. What they feared, how they communicated, what hunted them, and much more. Plus an exclusive PDF guide included. Link in the description. See you inside. Early humans sometimes competed with hyenas and big cats for herbivore carcasses. A dead predator would create the same contest, with the added concern that its associates might return. Once secured, however, the body contained useful resources. Lion meat is edible. It consists of the same basic tissues found in other mammals: muscle, fat, organs, and connective tissue. Modern people have eaten lions, other big cats, bears, wolves, and many carnivores under different circumstances. But carnivore meat is rarely the ideal target. Predators are less numerous than herbivores because energy is lost at each level of the food chain. A landscape can support many prey animals, but only a small population of apex predators. Lions also defend themselves more effectively than dinner normally should. Their meat may contain parasites and pathogens, as can meat from herbivores. Thorough cooking reduces many risks, although direct evidence that a particular ancient lion steak was cooked is usually difficult to identify. Burning can result from roasting, waste disposal, accidental contact with a hearth, or later fire. There is also the question of taste, which archaeology has refused to preserve out of spite. Carnivore meat can be strong, lean, and unfamiliar, but hunger is a generous food critic. If a lion was available, ancient humans had no reason to waste kilograms of usable protein merely because the restaurant review was uncertain. Marrow and fat may have been especially valuable. Humans cannot live indefinitely on extremely lean protein alone. Fat provides concentrated energy, and large bones can preserve it after much of the meat has deteriorated. Breaking a lion's limbs for marrow makes nutritional sense even if the muscle was not anyone's favorite. But food was only one reason to process the animal. The hide may have been more valuable than the meat. A lion pelt is large, warm, visually unmistakable, and difficult to obtain. It could serve as bedding, clothing, a covering, a display, or an object used in ritual. Unlike meat, a carefully removed hide could remain useful for years. Skinning leaves a different map of cuts. Marks cluster around the paws, lower limbs, skull, or other places where the hide must be separated from bone. If claws remain attached to the skin, the small toe bones can travel with the pelt even when the rest of the skeleton stays elsewhere. That exact pattern appears at Einhornhöhle, Unicorn Cave, in Germany. Researchers studied cave lion toe bones dating to at least 190,000 years ago. Cut marks suggest Neanderthals removed a pelt while preserving the paws and claws. The unusual skeletal pattern indicates the hide may have been transported into the cave. This is far older than the famous Ice Age paintings and figurines made by modern humans. It suggests Neanderthals valued the appearance or practical qualities of a lion skin long before anyone carved a lion-headed figure from ivory. Again, the evidence does not prove they killed that particular lion. A found carcass still has a perfectly functional coat. But taking the hide carefully requires knowledge, time, and intention. Later modern humans did something similar. At La Garma Cave in Spain, archaeologists found 9 lion toe bones from roughly 16,000 to 17,000 years ago. Their arrangement and cut marks indicate they had once been part of a pelt with the claws attached. The remains occurred in a remarkable interior space where ritual activity has been proposed. The pelt may have been laid on the floor, worn, displayed, or used in some ceremony. We do not know. But somebody entered a deep cave carrying the skin of an apex predator. That is not an accidental use of leftovers. It is a statement. What statement? Archaeology becomes cautious here because symbolism is easy to invent. A lion pelt could represent strength, danger, identity, protection, hunting success, a story, a spirit, or simply the fact that lion fur is warm. Practical and symbolic meanings can also overlap. Your winter coat can keep you alive, and still be selected because it looks impressive. Ancient humans clearly treated lions as more than generic meat. Upper Paleolithic artists painted cave lions with close attention to their bodies and behavior. At Chauvet Cave in France, lions appear in groups, some interacting with prey. Artists carved lion figures and pierced lion teeth for ornaments. The famous Lion Man sculpture combines a human-like body with a lion's head. None of this proves lion worship, a lion cult, or a specific myth. But people invested scarce time and valuable materials in representing these animals. Lions occupied mental territory as well as physical territory. Killing one may therefore have carried social value beyond calories. A hunter involved in a lion kill possessed an extraordinary story. The pelt or teeth could make the event visible. Success might increase prestige, signal courage, or create an object linked to group identity. Even if 10 people participated and one individual later explained that it had mostly been their idea, the kill could strengthen shared memory. But prestige alone is not the only explanation. Humans may have killed lions defensively. A lion visiting a camp threatened children, adults, stored food, and perhaps dogs in later periods. A lion occupying a useful cave could block access to shelter. One repeatedly following human hunters might steal kills. Removing it protected the group and reduced competition. The line between defense and hunting could be thin. If people tracked a dangerous lion to eliminate it, they were deliberately hunting. But the original goal may have been safety, not supper. Once it was dead, leaving the carcass untouched would waste meat, fat, bone, teeth, claws, sinew, and hide. Ancient humans were skilled at turning animal bodies into multiple resources. A kill made for defense could end as food, clothing, tools, and symbolism. The lion did not need to be hunted for meat to be eaten. This is why asking whether humans hunted and ate lions contains two separate questions. Sometimes they hunted lions, sometimes they ate lions. The evidence does not require both actions in every case. A scavenged lion could be consumed. A hunted lion could be skinned, but not eaten. A defensive kill could supply marrow. A ritual pelt could come from an animal whose meat fed the camp. The same carcass could move from danger to dinner to clothing to ceremony. Archaeologists reconstruct these stages through taphonomy, the study of what happened to remains between an animal's death and their discovery. Cut marks have shapes and orientations. Stone tools often leave narrow grooves with microscopic striations. Their location matters. Cuts around a joint suggest disarticulation. Long scraping marks on a shaft may indicate flesh removal. Marks near paws can indicate skinning. Impact notches and fresh bone fractures can reveal marrow extraction. Scientists then compare the pattern with experimental butchery and with damage produced by carnivore teeth, trampling, sediment pressure, roots, and excavation tools. This is necessary because bones are unreliable witnesses. A tooth mark can resemble damage from another process. A bone may be moved between layers. A wildfire can burn an old carcass. A cave can be occupied alternately by humans, lions, bears, and hyenas over centuries, creating an archaeological waiting room in which nobody signed the visitor log. To claim hunting, researchers want evidence connected to the animal's death. A projectile point embedded in bone, a diagnostic weapon lesion, a clear kill site pattern, or circumstances difficult to explain by scavenging. To claim eating, they want systematic access to edible tissues. Defleshing marks, joint separation, bone breakage for marrow, burning consistent with food processing, or human tooth marks in some contexts. The Siegsdorf rib is powerful because it crosses the first threshold. The Grandolina skeleton is powerful because it crosses the second. Together, they show that lion exploitation was not invented by modern Homo sapiens. Earlier humans, including Neanderthals and populations before them, were capable of turning an apex predator into a carcass under human control. Yet, the rarity of these cases is equally important. At most Paleolithic sites, prey remains are dominated by herbivores: deer, horses, bison, wild cattle, ibex, mammoths, and other animals depending on the environment. Lion bones with clear butchery or hunting evidence are exceptional. This was not a weekly menu. No Ice Age parent routinely sighed, opened the food storage, and announced that the family was having lion again. Lions were difficult to find, dangerous to approach, costly to kill, and more valuable alive to the ecosystem than as predictable prey. Humans likely targeted them only under unusual conditions: opportunity, threat, scarcity, competition, specialized hunting, or social purpose. The encounters may also have affected lions over time. Cave lions disappeared near the end of the Pleistocene. Climate changed rapidly, habitats shifted, populations of large prey declined or moved. Lions already lived at low densities, making them vulnerable to disruption. Humans competed for the same herbivores, occupied caves, and sometimes killed lions directly. Did human hunting cause their extinction? The evidence is not strong enough for a single cause verdict. Direct lion kills are too rare to demonstrate systematic extermination across Eurasia. But humans did not need to kill every lion personally. Reducing prey, taking habitat, disturbing dens, and occasionally killing adults could add pressure to populations already struggling with environmental change. Competition may have mattered as much as hunting. Humans were unusual competitors because they could change strategy quickly. They used weapons, fire, cooperation, clothing, shelters, and long-distance communication. Lions were magnificent predators, but they could not organize a meeting about declining reindeer numbers and invent a new projectile technology before spring. Over time, the balance shifted. The animal that once threatened humans at the edge of a carcass became an animal humans could deliberately surround, kill, butcher, represent, and wear. That does not mean fear vanished. Fear was probably essential to doing it successfully. Experienced hunters understood that a wounded lion remained lethal. They would have watched its movement, read tracks, listened for companions, chosen terrain, and approached only when they believed the advantage was overwhelming. Courage without planning is simply a shorter archaeological layer. The hunt required knowledge of lion behavior and human behavior. Everyone had to act together. A missed thrust endangered the group. A person fleeing at the wrong moment could expose someone else. The kill, therefore, measured trust as much as aggression. And after the danger ended, the work began. Skinning a lion with stone tools took time. Heavy limbs had to be separated. Meat had to be carried or consumed before it spoiled. Bones selected for marrow needed to be broken. Claws and teeth could be removed. The pelt had to be cleaned, scraped, dried, and perhaps smoked or treated with fat. The final object concealed an entire chain of labor. A lion skin lying in a cave was not simply decoration. It represented tracking, risk, killing or carcass recovery, butchery, transport, processing, and preservation. Everyone who saw it understood that somebody had crossed the normal boundary between predator and prey. So did ancient humans really hunt and eat lions? Yes, but rarely and not always for the same reason. At Siegsdorf, a spear injury provides direct evidence that Neanderthals killed a cave lion. At Grandolina, systematic butchery and marrow extraction show that much earlier humans consumed one. At Einhornhöhle and Lagarma, carefully removed paws reveal lion pelts carried and used by Neanderthals and modern humans. The cases span immense stretches of time. They do not describe one tradition or one species. They show a recurring possibility. When opportunity, danger, hunger, or meaning aligned, humans could reverse the oldest relationship in the landscape. The lion became the hunted, its meat became food, its bones became tools or fuel for knowledge, its teeth became ornaments, its skin became warmth, display, or ritual, and its image entered stories we can still see but no longer understand. The remarkable part is not that ancient humans were fearless. They almost certainly were not. The remarkable part is that they could feel the fear, organize around it, and approach anyway. A lion was never the sensible choice for dinner, but sometimes in the Ice Age, humans looked at the animal designed to eat them and started planning the meal in reverse.